Welcome to VS Code Day, and thanks for making it to the last session. My name is Sana, and I'm a program manager on the team. I'm coming to you from the East Coast, so I hope wherever you're located, you and your loved ones are safe. So today I'm going to share some fire VS Code tips and tricks, some of the customization features that we've brought on in the last 6 months or so. Some of the things that I think can really make and improve the quality of life in the editor for you and make it a lot better. So let me just share my screen. You can see my screen over here. I have a very basic Node.js Express app, and let's get right into it. So I'm going to open up my settings. So Command comma opens up my settings. The first setting I want to show you is kind of a warm-up one. I just recently learned about this, and I thought it really helped improve what I was doing. So it's this one. So files.default language. So right now, if I were to open a new file in my editor, it is a plain text file by default. So I don't get any of the colorization and syntax highlighting I might expect. So I can change that. And right now I set it to be a markdown file because often when I'm creating new files in VS Code, I'm just kind of jotting down a couple of notes. I just want to do it in markdown. So now if I open a new file, it's in markdown and I can start taking notes as I want to. So that's a really cool setting I like, really improved my workflow. In fact, another thing you can set this to is actually active editor language. So this means that wherever editor I open the new file from, the new file will take on the same language as that. So if I open a new file from a JavaScript file right now, the new file I do is actually in JavaScript. So that's really cool. The next setting I want to show you is a setting to improve the suggestions that the editor gives you while you're coding. So this is a new setting that came in recently, editor.suggest.show status bar and editor.suggest.insert mode. So let me show you what this does. I go to my JavaScript file and I type app dot. So the new setting that we just added adds this status bar underneath the suggestions I see. So right now I can go in and press enter to insert the method that it just provided to me. I can also go back here and re-trigger my suggestions, and I can also see if I want to replace the method instead of inserting it. So this will replace it. That was really neat. All right. The status bar also tells me that I can toggle the details of the methods of the suggestions. So if I press Control Space, I can also see details of this, right? So that's really cool. I can toggle the details if I want to, because sometimes we know that if you provide too many suggestions, it covers your code. So you can toggle the details like that as well. To make it even better, you can actually change the size of the suggest widget. So if you want to take up more, if you want to make it horizontally short, vertically short, if you just want to see one suggestion at a time, you can do that. You can also do that for the details as well. So this way you can kind of see and toggle the information that you want provided to you. And VS Code will remember the sizes of the widgets that you just did over here. All right, cool. That's a really nice quality of life feature, I like to call it. The next thing I want to show you is actually a really hot feature that was highly, highly requested for a couple of years in the editor, and that is pin tabs. So wait for it. Are you ready? Right click, pin, boom. I can pin the tabs in my editor as I want. So I can pin multiple tabs if I want to. And if I have multiple files open and I close all of them, the pin tabs are persistent, so they won't close until you unpin them. So that's really cool. They're always at the front of the rest of your tabs you have open. So if I want to go and kind of play around with more customizations with the pin tabs, I can change this setting, workbench.editor.pin tab sizing. So I have it set to normal, but the other options for this are compact and shrink. So compact will just show you the file type icon of the tab and not the full name. And then shrink will show you the first couple of letters of the file name. So if you want it like that, I prefer to have this to be set to normal. And then the other thing that was highly, highly requested, that's a really cool feature in setting, is the ability to wrap your tabs. So if I have a couple of tabs open, before I would have to, if this was disabled, I would have to kind of scroll through all of them. So if I open up a bunch of files, you can see that I have to scroll through all my editors I have open. But now with this setting, they just wrap onto the second row, and that's awesome. And I can see all the tabs I have open. So I really like this. It makes it easier for me, at least, to kind of know what I have open and what I don't, and pin the tabs I want to keep. Another way to kind of distinguish between the pin tabs you have open and the unpinned tabs you have open is to go into your color customizations for your theme. So you can see here that I'm rocking the Synthwave 84 theme at the moment, and I can actually customize this theme a little bit further. So I have a couple of settings for tabs I have set. So if I uncomment this, you can now see I have a slight yellow line kind of distinguishing the last of my pinned tabs and the remainder of my tabs. So I prefer to have this because it just lets me visually see what I have pinned and what I don't have pinned. So I really, really like this setting as well. Speaking of customizations, another thing that we constantly heard from developers is that they want to kind of customize VS Code in the way it looks. And so VS Code, I think the best thing about it is that you can really change it to be your preferences. So my VS Code and your VS Code could look very different, and that's totally okay. So what I want to do is show you the flexible layout option that we added to the editor. So if there are views in the sidebar that you prefer to maybe have in the panel at the bottom here, you can do that and vice versa. So for instance, if I wanted to take the debug console, I grab it by its header, and I can kind of place it in the sidebar if I want to. I can place it in its own view, or I can place it in an existing view. So I can put it in the debug view over here, and voila, that was awesome. Super easy. If I wanted to take the search and move it from the sidebar and put it in the panel because I want like a wider, if I want a wider kind of way to look at my output, I can do that here, and this is now my editor. So this is super neat. It really lets you play around with if you want to see things on the left, on the right, top, bottom, whatever your preferred method of kind of viewing all your parts of your code is. And if you kind of mess around with the drag and drop a little bit too much, you can reset everything by using the command reset view locations. All right, cool. So now that we've customized our editor a lot to our liking, what happens if I were to set up a new machine with VS Code, right? I don't want to go through the hassle of kind of taking all my settings, all my key bindings, all my the UI state that I customized just now, and having to reset that up on a new machine. If I had a work machine and I was setting up a new personal machine, I want to make sure my environment is relatively the same. So before you spend an afternoon or a couple hours doing that, I want to show you something called setting sync that we recently added as well. So I'm going to emulate the two kind of device workflow by using insiders, which I have right now, and stable. So the stable is like my new kind of machine I have. So you can see here that I am actually logged into setting sync. So setting sync is what preserves your settings and your extensions across different machines. So you can see what I'm actually syncing. I'm setting my settings, my keyboard shortcuts, my snippets, extension, UI state, syncing all of it. Great. So I'm going to go into here and make sure that setting sync is turned on. So this is my new kind of instance of VS Code I'm setting up. So let's turn this on, and it's going to ask me what I want to sync across my devices, all of them as well. Sign in with my GitHub account. And it gives me an option to merge or replace my settings. So I want to actually replace these local settings with the settings I've synced in the cloud with my insider settings. So I'm going to replace the local ones from the ones that I've synced. And there you go. My settings now look like the settings I had in my insiders, right? So I can open up, my settings are all here, all of my extensions are here. So as soon as I make a change over here, so for instance, if I wanted to hide the Azure and the Remote Explorer things over here, if I do that, it syncs up as well over here, and it happens pretty instantaneously. So this was it literally took less than a minute to set up my new machine. I don't have to worry about the hassle of, making sure I saved everything, preserved everything. VS Code will just take care of that for me. And now that I've signed into GitHub, to VS Code with my GitHub account, it also unlocks a couple more GitHub related features that make it really easy to improve the quality of your life as a developer. So for instance, this is my sample Express app, but I haven't backed it up yet. It's just locally on my machine. So if I go over to the source control view over here, I can get an option to initialize this as a Git repository or publish this directly to GitHub. So I'm going to press on this. So this gives me an option to publish directly to my GitHub because I've already signed in. I can make it a private or public repository. So I'll make this a private one. I can choose what files I want to push. Let's just choose all of them. And it will, in a couple of seconds, upload everything to GitHub, make sure it's being tracked in VS Code with source control, and I can go directly to it. So I show you what that just opened up over here and did my first commit for me. That was super easy, literally a push of a button to kind of make sure I've backed everything up in VS Code with source control. So earlier, if I had to go do this, I would go to GitHub, create an empty repository, have a single file in there, bring it down, and then drop my local files into that. That's kind of a roundabout way of doing this. So this makes it a lot easier to just directly do it from VS Code. One more thing I want to show you is if I start with a new window, I can do something similar as well. So now I have an empty window with no folder open, but I want to actually clone a repository from GitHub. So here I get an option in the Explorer to clone the repository. So doing this, clone from GitHub, I can search for everything on GitHub. So I can either put in a link, or because I've signed in, I get this sweet option. So I could search for anything I want to. If I wanted to do create React app, to search for it from here. But what I want to do is actually clone this cat said node project. And within a couple seconds, it's cloned. So I don't have to worry about choosing if I want to clone over HTTPS or SSH. This kind of just does it for me. You don't have to run a git fetch. So if I check my remotes, it set that up for me as well. Very easy. So I just have to worry about starting my code and not worrying about getting it into the editor. So we made it a lot easier to kind of get started over here with those tips. So I hope that helped. Brian, back to you.
Fantastic. And, you know, I do love tips and tricks. You know, I'm a big fan of that, right, Sana?
I love tips and tricks. These are so much fun to kind of go through the release notes, each release, and see what's new.
Yeah. So questions for you right off the bat. Lots of this really is helpful in terms of like improving your development workflow, that developer loop, so to speak, that some folks have termed. And I greatly enjoy micro optimizations, even the slightest bit, because of how repetitive we might be doing these things within our editor. So in terms of extensions, though, sometimes they help add into the productivity that we have. What would be your favorite extension around that kind of thing as a tip for folks to check out?
Ooh, my favorite extension definitely has to be LiveShare. I actually was recently showing a friend how to use LiveShare, and I just realized like how amazing it is to be able to connect with people in the same editor. It's really providing a seamless experience as we're all working remotely. I think it's increased productivity for a lot of folks and teams, even students in classrooms learning to code. I think LiveShare has made a lot of that a lot easier. So if you're not using it, you're missing out on an awesome experience in VS Code.
LiveShare is fantastic. All right. And then in terms of your tips, you shared a lot of tips today, but is there just one major tip that's essential that you want to share with everybody that can help them benefit? Yeah,
let me share my screen. Cool. So there's a lot of really great kind of hot tips. I think if you haven't done a couple, like autosave, make sure you've kind of set that to be on. I really liked this file default language when I showed earlier because it made it a lot easier to just kind of not have to worry about saving my file and just working in the current context I'm in. If I had to pick a really cool tip, I did say these were fire tips. There was a really cool extension I found called Power Mode, and it actually adds flames while you code. So I thought that was really neat. So as I'm coding, you can see some awesome kind of fun customizations.
That is fire. Well done. Well done. That's awesome. So there you go, folks. Check out the Power Mode extension for VS Code if you want to have fire as you're typing. All right. One last thing that I think folks might be thinking, and I'm hoping you might be able to give us some insight here. Is there any hint as to what might be coming with VS Code in the future this year?
Yeah, I think a couple of people earlier might have teased at it, but I think we saw a lot of things about notebooks. We saw a lot of things about remote development. Code spaces was mentioned. All of this is kind of on the roadmap to really kind of improve the different kinds of editing experiences you can have. So we've worked on the current out-of-box experience, but also involving other editors. So notebook editors, really useful for data science and education. We have the new testing infrastructure I think Eric teased at. And there's a lot more also coming with like improving the kind of the getting started experience in VS Code. So the welcome page, maybe look out for a new one coming soon.
Awesome. That's fantastic to hear, and very exciting stuff. It's great to see how much VS Code has come, and just anticipating what else is out there for it. So thank you so much, Sana. I'm definitely going to be incorporating some of those tips into my development workflow.
Cool. Thank you, Brian.